At home, boys were favored over girls, and I was never allowed to eat my fill. When I was 12, starving, I picked up 1 yuan on the road and bought 2 packs of instant noodles. From then on, my once healthy body became weak and sickly, plagued by constant bad luck. After being reborn, I gave the chance to pick up the money to the village chief's son. From then on, the whole village was thrown into chaos. Opening my eyes again, what came into view was a tiled roof dripping with rain and spiderwebs. Hanging in the corners, a familiar spasm and burning sensation came from my stomach. I'm so hungry. No, didn't I die? Why do I still feel hungry? I suddenly sat up, rushed barefoot out of the room into the main hall, and stared at the calendar hanging on the wall. May 16th, 1997. My heart pounded uncontrollably, as if it were about to leap out of my throat at any moment. I have been reborn. I had returned to the age of 12, back to the day I picked up that 1 yuan. After my death in my previous life, my soul remained trapped in the village. I saw many things I hadn't known while I was alive, and finally understood why I had gone from being as strong as an ox to weak and plagued by misfortune overnight. You good for nothing, you're awake and still not going to fetch water. All you do is think about slacking off, you lazy, maggot-ridden thing. I must have been cursed for 8 lifetimes to have given birth to you. A sharp, grating voice rang in my ears. It was my mother, who always spoke to me with undisguised loathing. What are you standing there for, looking for a beating? 3 days without a spanking and you're already climbing the roof to tear off the tiles. If you delay the household's water, I'll skin you alive. As she spoke, she emerged from the kitchen, clutching a fire poker. Her round face was etched with bitterness, and her narrow, triangular eyes were forever filled with doting affection for her son and utter contempt for me. I immediately turned and ran outside. Mom, I haven't eaten breakfast yet. I'm hungry. I can't carry it. My name is Chin Yueme, born in a small mountain village that values sons over daughters. Here, daughters are considered a financial burden, while sons are the precious heirs who carry on the family line. There is only one exception in the entire village, and that is the village chief's family. The village chief and his wife treated their frail and sickly daughter, Li Yuding, as a precious treasure, holding her in their hands for fear she might fall, and cradling her in their mouths for fear she might melt. Since childhood, I have been strong and robust, with strength far surpassing that of my peers. Although only 12 years old, I could carry a full load of water from the well at the east end of the village back home without even panting. Ever since my parents discovered that my strength far exceeded that of my peers, the heavy burden of fetching water shifted from my father's broad shoulders to my own slender ones. I have to fill the large water vat at home every day. The vat is so big that it takes 12 trips with a carrying pole to fill it up. Although my family doesn't treat me well, to make sure I fill the vat with water, my mother mercifully allows me to eat 1 sweet potato every morning before I go to fetch water. My mother glared angrily. How dare you talk back, you wretched girl, you've really gone too far. If you don't fill the water vat today, you won't be allowed to eat all day. In my past life, I didn't understand why my mother didn't give me any food last night and still made me go fetch water on an empty stomach today. Only after becoming a ghost did I realize that all of this was premeditated. I made a face at my mother. Whoever wants to pick it can pick it. With that, I turned and ran toward the mountain. In my previous life, even after becoming weak and sickly, plagued by constant bad luck, I managed to survive for half a year by scavenging for food on Lion Mountain. Now I'm healthy and free from illness and disaster, so why should I fear not having enough to eat? In my previous life, last night my parents deliberately didn't give me any food, claiming that since I had been playing outside all day, I must have already eaten my fill. They finished all the food themselves, watching my younger brother, who came home later than I did, eat 3 full bowls of rice with oily braised pork. I silently set down the basket of pigweed. As soon as I got up in the morning, I was sent to fetch water. After carrying 2 loads, I was so hungry that I felt dizzy and my vision blurred. On the 3rd trip, a crumpled 1 yuan bill tied with a red string lay quietly in the middle of the road, with strange symbols drawn on it. Starving to the point of seeing stars, I threw the lesson of returning lost money, taught by my teacher, to the back of my mind. I looked around and, seeing no one, immediately picked up the money, ran to the village store, bought 2 packs of instant noodles, and wolfed them down. Little did I know that from that day on, everything would change. I, who used to be as strong as an ox, began to fall ill and have bad luck for no reason, tripping while walking, choking on water, catching a cold as soon as the wind blew, and getting a fever whenever the weather turned hot. One day, while walking perfectly fine at school, I suddenly lost my balance and fell, ending up with a bloody head. My mother stormed into the school, causing a scene and demanding compensation. Eventually getting 500 yuan from the school, with the money in hand, she immediately withdrew me from school and took me back home, always getting sick, tripping and falling until your head bleeds. What a jinx, who knows, you might just trip and die on the road one day. What's the point of wasting money on school? You might as well come back and help out at home. As for the medical and nutrition allowances from the school, they were quickly turned into new backpacks, new toys, new game consoles, new clothes, and so on for my brother. Ever since I became a sickly, unlucky child, my family has treated me even worse. My parents treat me like I'm invisible, often not giving me food. I can only drag my weak body up the mountain to find something to eat. After discovering that I could no longer work or contribute to the family, they decided to legally and completely get rid of me on my 13th birthday. My parents took my younger brother to visit relatives in the city, leaving me alone. At home, before leaving, my mother deliberately locked all the food in her own room. They walked away without looking back, never considering what might happen to me alone at home, helpless. I could only drag my weak body up the mountain to find food, and in the end, I fell down the mountain and died. After my death, my soul did not disappear but lingered in the village. I saw my parents, after my death, receive a generous hush money from the village chief. They used this money to buy new clothes for the whole family and added a bicycle to the household. Strangely enough, ever since I became weak and sickly, plagued by constant bad luck, the sickly Li Yuding gradually recovered day by day, from being bedridden to falling ill every 3 to 5 days, then to getting sick every 10 days or half a month, and finally, from panting after every few steps to being able to run and jump. Li Yuding had been unlucky since childhood. Even when lying in bed, roof tiles or wall plaster would inexplicably fall off, always landing right on her face. Villagers whispered among themselves, with Li Yuding's rotten luck, even if she can run and jump, she's bound to get hit by a car the moment she steps outside. Ever since her health improved, Li Yuding's luck also took a turn for the better. When she went up the mountain to dig for wild vegetables, she would find wild bird eggs, and wild chickens and rabbits would even run straight into her traps. Walking on the road, she often stumbled upon money. I spent 3 years by their side before piecing together the truth of the matter. Li Yuding is a thief. Her health and good fortune were all stolen from me. Li Yuding has been frail since childhood, and the village chief somehow found a master to change her fate against the odds. The master asked the village chief for 1 yuan, and on that 1 yuan, he cast a spell called the art of shifting blame. Whoever picks up that 1 yuan and uses it will have their health and good fortune silently transferred to Li Yuding. Similarly, Li Yuding's frail constitution and misfortune will silently transfer to that person. The village chief and his wife sifted through the options and finally chose me, the strongest and healthiest person in the whole village. The village chief came to my house in the middle of the night, pounding his chest as he assured my parents, "If this matter is settled, I'll get your little tiger into the town's central primary school and give you 1,000 yuan as a reward." The village chief's words hit my parents right where it hurt. With their preference for sons over daughters, they agreed without a second thought. That's how my tragic fate came to be. I don't understand. How can some parents cherish their daughters as if their lives depend on it, while others treat them like worthless trash? The day I pieced together the truth, I crouched on the ground, drawing circles to curse my parents and the village chief's family. Once the circles were drawn, everything went dark before my eyes. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day that changed my fate. After devouring a whole roasted wild rabbit, I picked up my tattered basket and headed down the mountain. I went straight to the place not far from where my fate had turned in my previous life. As expected, I saw it again. It was still lying quietly in the middle of the road, still tied with a red string, and still painted with strange symbols. It was like Pandora's box, waiting for an unlucky soul to release the most vicious curse. I ducked behind a tree to observe, and before long, I saw the village chief's wife peek out from another small path. Seeing the money still there, she stomped her foot angrily before sneaking away again. My heart raced, not out of greed or fear, but from excitement and hatred, watching little Fatty leading a group of kids in a war game and gradually moving closer to me. A malicious thought began to take shape in my mind. I stepped out from behind the tree and swaggered past little Fatty. "Hey, you good for nothing, stop. Right there, give me what you're holding," little Fatty called out to me, and despite his young age, he had perfectly mastered the bossy tone of his village chief father. I handed him the worn-out basket, which contained the wild vegetables I had dug up from the mountain. "Slap, ugh, who wants your lousy wild vegetables?" Xiao Pang looked at me smugly, waiting for me to crawl on the ground like a dog and pick up the wild vegetables back into the broken basket. After all, this had happened countless times before. Unexpectedly, I didn't pick up the broken basket. Instead, my eyes lit up as I stared ahead. "Money!" Xiao Pang moved even faster than I did. With a fierce pounce, he snatched the money. I got anxious. "This is mine. I saw it first. Give it back to me." Little Fatty looked smug and spat a mouthful of saliva right in my face. "What's yours? Call it and see if it answers. A worthless thing like you still wants money." "Ha!" I rubbed my hand, which had been scraped raw by little Fatty's stomping, and watched as he took that 1 yuan bill and called his friends to head toward the snack shop. I couldn't accept it, so I followed Fatty from a distance, watching him use that 1 yuan to buy 2 packs of instant noodles. He only kept 1 pack for himself, generously sharing the other with all his little friends. They crunched on the noodles with loud, crisp sounds. Fatty walked toward me while eating, and as he passed by, the crunching sound was especially loud. "So delicious. You good for nothing. How could someone like you ever deserve to eat something this good?" I didn't make a sound, just watched them with reddened eyes. Little Fatty gloated. "These instant noodles are really delicious. You worthless thing. Want some? If you do, get on your knees and beg me." His little friends joined in the commotion, shouting for me to kneel down and bark like a dog. I still didn't make a sound, watching little Fatty finish the whole pack of instant noodles, and I cried. These are tears of joy. I have finally changed my own fate. The village chief and his wife are famously doting on their daughter, but it's unclear whether they favor her more than their son. Seeing me crying so hard I could barely catch my breath, little Fatty and his friends burst into laughter, spat at me, and then ran off to continue their war games. After the person had walked far away, I immediately turned around and went to the small shop. I took out a crumpled 1 yuan bill and bought 2 packs of instant noodles. This 1 yuan was something I had painstakingly saved up over the past few years. Through the bag, I crushed the instant noodles, then opened the bag, poured the seasoning powder into the noodles, shook them to mix, and began to slowly savor them. In my previous life, because I was too hungry, I wolfed down the 2 packs of instant noodles without even knowing what they tasted like. This time, with my stomach not hungry, I slowly savored them and discovered that there was actually something as delicious as instant noodles in this world. After finishing the instant noodles, I slowly made my way home with the broken basket. When I got home, my parents surprisingly didn't scold or hit me, which was rare. If it were any other day, my dad's shoulder pole and my mom's fire poker would have already teamed up for a double whammy on me. My dad's gaze paused at the corner of my mouth, a flicker of excitement flashing in his eyes. My mother stared intently at the corner of my mouth, and when she confirmed it was just crumbs from instant noodles, she also smiled, her sharp triangular eyes softening. I couldn't help but marvel at the allure of money. In the middle of the night, my parents sneaked off to the village chief's house to claim credit. I quietly followed them, watching my parents greedily take 1,000 yuan from the village chief, watching the village chief pat my dad on the shoulder. "Don't worry, brother. Your little tiger will be able to transfer to the central primary school in September." Clearly, someone had already told the village chief that during the day, I had taken 1 yuan to the small shop to buy snacks, although they also told him that little Fatty had taken 1 yuan to buy something to eat at the small shop. The village chief didn't think anything of it. The couple gave their son pocket money every day, starting with at least 1 yuan, and sometimes as much as 2 or 5 yuan. My father was so happy he couldn't stop smiling. "Thank you, village chief. Thank you, village chief." The children in the village had to climb over a hill to attend the primary school in another village. In the entire village, only little Fatty attended the central primary school in the town, because the principal of that school was the village chief's brother-in-law. Trading a worthless girl for my son's bright future and $1,000. There's no better deal than that. I bet at this moment, My dad must be regretting not having more worthless girls. I watched it all with cold eyes, these two couples, one sacrificing their daughter without hesitation for money and their son's future, the other willing to harm another family's child for their own daughter. The next day, I got up as usual and headed straight for the mountains. After eating a roasted pheasant in the mountains, I descended with a basket of wild vegetables. Just as I reached the foot of the mountain, I heard an exciting piece of news. Little Fatty from the village chief's family secretly went to play in the water and fell into the river. When he was rescued, he was almost gone. It took a long time of pressing before he finally spat out the water. He's already been taken to the hospital. It worked so quickly, my hands trembled slightly with excitement. When I got home, my parents still didn't scold or hit me. My mother's eyes swept over me back and forth. After putting down the broken basket, I collapsed to the ground, panting heavily. I'm exhausted. Mom, is there any food? I'm starving. A flicker of excitement and a hint of disdain flashed in my mother's eyes. All you do is eat, eat, eat. You want to eat as soon as you do a little work. Why don't you just die outside? My parents walked past me, went back to their room, and immediately closed the door. My mother's voice trembled with excitement. That worthless girl used to go up the mountain as if it were child's play. But now she's so weak after just one trip up. It seems this thing has really worked, but I'm a bit worried. That worthless girl won't end up like Li Yuding, that sickly girl, lying in bed waiting for us to take care of her. Will she? My dad said, let's observe for a while. If she really can't work, we should sell her to an old bachelor as soon as possible. That way, we can get a dowry for Xiaohu. I clenched my fists. Since you're being heartless, don't blame me for being ruthless. Xiaohu ran in from outside, sweating profusely. Hey, you good for nothing. I'm hungry. Hurry up and make me something to eat. I carried the worn-out basket into the kitchen. Without saying a word, my mother's loud voice echoed from the room. Make wild vegetable porridge, and use the eggs to make 5 wild vegetable egg pancakes. I followed her instructions one by one. Dad, these 2 are for you. You're the pillar of the family, so eat a little more. Little tiger, these 2 are for you. You're the family's root. You need to eat more to grow up strong and carry on the family line in the future. At the dinner table, my mom distributed the wild vegetable and egg pancakes, 2 for my dad, 2 for little tiger, and 1 for herself. As for me, who had worked hard all day, I only got to eat the wild vegetable porridge. What are you looking at? Keep staring and I'll dig your eyes out. A worthless girl like you dares to covet the wild vegetable and egg pancakes. I lowered my head and listlessly sipped the wild vegetable porridge. When I looked up, little tiger was proudly making faces at me, taking a big bite of the fragrant wild vegetable and egg pancake in his hand, and then deliberately smacking his lips. The egg pancake is so delicious. It's a shame that a worthless girl like you doesn't deserve to eat such a tasty pancake. Only a boy like me, who carries the important task of continuing the family line, is worthy of it. 2 weeks later, little Fatty from the village chief's family returned. The village chief's wife cried uncontrollably. It turned out that little Fatty had been soaked in water for too long and caught a cold on the way to the hospital. By the time he was admitted, he had already developed severe pneumonia and had to be hospitalized. During his hospital stay, little Fatty was still restless. He took advantage of the adults' inattention and sneaked off to an internet cafe to play in the middle of the night. Later, he developed a high fever, reaching 40 degrees Celsius, and nearly burned himself out of his senses. Originally, he could have been discharged in just 1 week, but it ended up dragging on for 2 full weeks. Upon discharge, the doctor advised that he must take good care of himself for a while, otherwise, his physical functions would decline and his constitution would worsen. Li Yuding's health had improved significantly, progressing from being bedridden to being able to take a few steps out of bed. Because of little Fatty's incident, the village chief and his wife didn't show much joy over Li Yuding's change. My mother gloated at home. Serves her right, she flaunts her money, dressing in red and green, painting her face like a demon all day long. My father puffed on his pipe. Keep your voice down, don't let anyone hear you. My mother was both envious and jealous of the village chief's wife, often gossiping about her at home. Don't be fooled by my dad's honest and simple appearance. Deep down, he's also jealous of the village chief, envious that the chief managed to marry a wife who could be of great help. In his view, if he had married the village chief's wife, he would be the village Chief now, my mother glared at me fiercely. If you dare to talk nonsense outside, I'll knock your teeth out. My brother made a face at me. Ha ha ha, knock your teeth out and sell you to get me a bride price. In my previous life, the power of the framing technique was quite formidable. I picked up that 1 yuan to buy instant noodles, and within just a week, I became a sickly child, because the incident was too bizarre. My reputation as a sickly child spread throughout the surrounding villages. And my parents were unable to sell me off. Unable to exchange me for money, they either beat or scolded me. In order to get rid of me, the sickly child, the three of them went to visit relatives in the city, leaving me alone at home, hoping to starve me to death. Tiger never considered me his sister. In his eyes, I was just a maid and a worthless burden that could be sold off for his bride price. Ever since I became a sickly invalid, unable to fetch him a bride price, he stopped treating me like a human being altogether. He said he wanted to see a drowned rat, and without a care for the torrential downpour outside, he shoved me out of the house. He said he wanted to eat fish, and with a single motion, he pushed me into the rushing river. He said he wanted to play with firecrackers, so he called his friends to tie me to a tree trunk, gathered a large pile of wet cow dung around my feet, and then set off the firecrackers one by one in the dung. There were countless incidents like this. I didn't say a word and went out as usual with my broken basket. I went to check the trap, and luckily, I had caught another wild rabbit. I pulled a section of bamboo from my pocket, which contained the salt I had stolen from home. Well, today I'll continue eating roasted wild rabbit. One eye lay not far away, staring intently. I tossed the bloody rabbit head to it. One Eye is a stray dog from the village. Ever since I was reborn, I've been feeding it raw meat every day. One Eye was a stray dog who knew how to be grateful, and it wasn't long before he thanked me in his own way. Yuame, you're still digging for wild vegetables. Hurry home. Something terrible has happened at your house. A village auntie grabbed my hand and pulled me toward home, her tone filled with fear, sympathy, and excitement. Auntie, slow down. I can't run that fast. What happened at my house? My aunt looked at my pale face and weak body, a flicker of sympathy in her eyes. Your little tigers. It's gone. What? What's gone? That thing, your little tiger's thing, was snatched away by a wild dog. Oh dear, that little tiger. He's really the most mischievous kid in the whole village, always teasing cats and dogs all day long. Well, now look what happened. I bit my lip hard, trying not to let the corners of my mouth curl up. I asked with a sob in my voice, no, it can't be. Without that, how will Tiger carry on the family line and bring honor to our ancestors? By the time I got home, the house was already empty. Mom and Dad had taken Tiger to the hospital. A few days later, my parents brought back a female version of Little Tiger. From then on, Little Tiger could only pee squatting. Just like me, my parents' faces looked even worse than when my grandparents died. On the day Little Tiger's thing was snatched away by a wild dog, the whole village came to help. The wild dogs, usually so skinny from hunger, were exceptionally fierce that day. After much effort, everyone managed to wrest it from the wild dog's mouth, but half of it had already been eaten. Without that thing, Xiaohu's treatment became the same as mine. At first, Xiaohu couldn't see the situation clearly. He kept crying, throwing tantrums, and rolling on the ground, thinking our parents would give in to everything he wanted. After being disciplined by them without mercy a few times, Xiaohu accepted reality. I watched my parents' faces coldly. For Xiaohu's future and 1,000 yuan, they had sacrificed me without hesitation. Now that Xiaohu no longer had that piece of flesh, he too had become a discarded pawn. Not only that, Xiaohu was ostracized by his former playmates. The children mocked him as a eunuch and a sissy, with some even pulling down his pants, saying they wanted to see what a girl looked like. Xiaohu had never suffered such humiliation before. He fought with his playmates, but unfortunately, 2 fists were no match for 4 legs, and each time he returned bruised and battered. After a few such incidents, Xiaohu no longer liked going out. He hides at home all day, his face growing gloomier with each passing day. That day, as soon as I returned from outside, I saw Xiaohu crouching by our parents' door, eavesdropping. When he saw me, Xiaohu's expression didn't change in the slightest. My heart stirred, and I quietly walked over, pressing my ear against the door. My mother cried and scolded, "You damn ghost, with a good life you don't live, you have to mess around outside." What are we going to do in the future? My father's voice was muffled. How much money is left at home? Let's go buy one. I heard a boy can be bought for 5,000 yuan. Oh ho, the year little tiger was 2. My father fooled around with a woman from another village and was caught in the act by her husband. Not only was he beaten to a pulp, but he also had to pay 500 yuan in compensation. I knew it. They're so biased towards sons. How could they possibly be satisfied with just one? Now that Xiao Hu is disabled, they've started worrying about their old age care. Hearing that hospitals in big cities have advanced medical technology, they secretly went to a major hospital hoping for a cure, but unfortunately, the doctor still gave them a merciless death sentence, and now, the two of them are hiding at home discussing the issues of carrying on the family line and their old age care. Knew they were vicious, but I never imagined they could be this malicious, even willing to commit illegal acts. I glanced at Xiao Hu, his eyes as dark as ink. It seems I don't need to step in. My family's life is a mess, and the village chief's household is also in chaos. When little Fatty was discharged from the hospital, the doctor repeatedly emphasized the importance of taking good care of himself and making sure nothing else happened. But less than a week after returning home, little Fatty got injured again, and his injury was closely related to Li Yuding. Li Yuding no longer needed to stay in bed. Although she was still a bit weak, she was already able to move around normally. That day, Li Yuding came back from outside, holding a bag of instant noodles she had just bought from the convenience store. Xiao Pang saw it and clamored to eat, but Li Yuding refused. Xiao Pang was spoiled at home, and she was no exception. During the years she was bedridden, the village chief and his wife had granted her every wish, which had long fostered a willful, self-centered personality. When Xiao Pang tried to snatch her things, she pushed him without a second thought. With that push, little Fatty fell and was left with a bloody head, leaving a bowl-sized scar on his forehead. The village chief and his wife hurriedly carried little Fatty to the town health center. Upon seeing the amount of blood, the doctor quickly performed a simple bandaging and instructed them to take him to the county hospital. Fortunately, the county hospital had an ample supply of blood plasma. Otherwise, little Fatty might have died from excessive blood loss, due to the large size of the wound. Little Fatty's forehead required over a dozen stitches. Everyone in the village said Li Yuding was heartless, capable of doing such a cruel thing even to her own younger brother. Only I knew it was all thanks to that 1 yuan and the curse of shifting blame. The 1 yuan, cursed with the shifting blame, not only took away little Fatty's health but also made him unlucky. This time, little Fatty stayed in the hospital for half a month, and when he returned, he had gone from little Fatty to little thin. His face had thinned considerably, his squinting eyes now like mung beans, his complexion so pale it seemed devoid of any color, and he was carried by the village chief the entire time. When the village chief and his wife returned, they wanted to settle scores with Li Yuding, only to find that she had already vanished without a trace. That evening, Li Yuding was brought back by her uncle. With her uncle present, the village chief naturally refrained from hitting Li Yuding. However, I caught a glimpse of barely noticeable humiliation and ruthlessness in the village chief's eyes. I couldn't help but recall the time when I was a wandering spirit and accidentally overheard the village chief and his wife arguing over something. It's been too long, and I've forgotten what they were arguing about, but a voice in my head told me that this matter was extremely important, and I had to go back and think it over carefully. And so, I went home, propped up my pillow, and thought for 3 days and 3 nights before finally remembering what it was. I jolted upright from my deathbed. Oh my God, what a shocking piece of gossip. If this were to get out, it wouldn't just cause a stir in our village, it would create a huge uproar throughout the entire town. I didn't rush to spread this gossip around, partly because I had no evidence, and partly because the timing wasn't right. Not only was the village chief's household in chaos, but most families in the village were also having a hard time. Every single one of the little brats who ate the instant noodles given by little Fatty ended up in trouble. One had diarrhea today, another caught a cold tomorrow, 2 more came down with a fever the day after, a few others fell and got their heads bloodied the next day, and a few more fell into the manure pit the day after that. In short, it was quite a lively scene. Just as I was thoroughly enjoying the spectacle, I was pulled back home by my aunt, who had hurried over. You may? Poor child, what a tragedy. I already had a premonition in my heart, but I pretended to know nothing. Auntie, what's wrong? Did something happen at my home? Auntie looked at me with sympathy. Sigh, you'll have to see for yourself when you go back. The worn-out basket fell to the ground with a clatter, finally succumbing to the strain and breaking into 7, 8, 9, 10 pieces. I stumbled and crawled my way back home, the exposed skin on my body covered in scrapes, looking utterly disheveled, seeing the 3 bodies lying side by side before me. Tears of overwhelming joy finally broke free from their restraints. Falling uncontrollably, I fainted from crying several times in front of the morning hall, occasionally earning the remark, "This child is truly filial, but what a pity she's a girl." I no longer have to live in constant fear, worrying that I might be sold off at any moment, nor do I have to pretend to be weak anymore. My parents were eager to have a son to bring glory to the family, and they quickly found a middleman in less than half a month. The middleman sent word, tonight, the money and the goods would be exchanged. Last night, Xiaohu and I eavesdropped by their door again. When I heard the news, I knew today would be anything but peaceful, so I took advantage of my parents' deep sleep to move all the money from the house to my secret base, and before dawn, I left home with a worn-out basket. By the time the police from the local station and the doctors from the health center arrived, my parents and Xiaohu's bodies were already cold. I truthfully explained the situation at home. The forensic examiner conducted a detailed examination of my parents and Xiaohu, while the police carefully inspected the house, leaving no stone unturned. Finally, they concluded that all 3 were victims of homicide and suicide. While cooking, Xiaohu poured half a bottle of dichlorvos, intending not only to kill his parents but also to end his own life. Only I, who had been sent out to work early in the morning, managed to escape the tragedy. My home consisted of only 3 dilapidated rooms, including the main hall. Every household in the village was wealthier than ours. Additionally, since my parents and Xiaohu had died violently at home, everyone considered our house unlucky, so no one tried to seize our rundown property. After my parents and Xiaohu died, I no longer had to pretend to be weak or live in the woodshed. I happily moved into my parents' room. I began openly bringing the rabbits and pheasants I had hidden in the mountains back home, watching me carry water with brisk, flying steps right under their noses. The village chief and his wife stared wide-eyed. They rubbed their eyes, looking at me, then at their bedridden son and lively daughter. The couple's eyes were filled with terror. After that, the village chief's household became even more chaotic. The village chief seemed like a different person, transforming from a smiling tiger into a weary old wolf. Li Yuding, who was once deeply cherished, now became the village chief's punching bag. She, who had never lifted a finger for household chores, now not only had to take on all the domestic duties but also worked tirelessly in the fields. The village chief's wife, who had never been spoken to harshly, now often went to work in the fields with a face smeared in colorful bruises. The sounds of arguments from the village chief's house, along with the cries of his wife and Li Yuding, seemed to have become the daily entertainment for everyone. The village chief's wife called her elder brother, who came once but later left with a face ashen with anger. From then on, the village chief's wife and Li Yuding suffered even more torment. It has been 7 days since I last saw the village chief's wife and Li Yuding. During these 7 days, I often saw different people quietly coming in and out of the old house of the village chief's family. On this day, the village chief went to the town for a meeting. I secretly climbed into his old house and found the village chief's wife and Li Yuding tied up in the firewood shed. They were already emaciated to the bone, with disheveled hair, sallow faces, and covered in bruises on their faces and bodies. I untied them. The village chief's wife cried and said, "He's not human, he wants to sell me and Yuding." I showed a look of pity, taking out a handful of loose change and 2 fist-sized sweet potatoes from my pocket. "Auntie, take Yuding and run. If you don't run now, you won't survive." The village chief's wife's face was a mix of joy and a hint of guilt as she took the money and sweet potatoes. "Uma, thank you." With that, the village chief's wife took Li Yuding and ran off. I didn't leave until their figures vanished at the end of the path, then climbed over the wall and hummed a tune all the way home. When the village chief returned from the meeting and found his wife and daughter gone, his eyes turned bloodshot with rage. Not long after, the village chief led a team to search every household, claiming that 50 yuan and 3 old hens had gone missing from his home. When we arrived at my house, his gaze was particularly terrifying. he must have asked Little Fatty and learned that the 1 yuan Little Fatty used to buy instant noodles that day was actually specially prepared for me, but Little Fatty snatched it from my hand. Of course, the village chief wouldn't blame Little Fatty. He would only vent his anger on me for not taking the money earlier and for not snatching that 1 yuan back from Little Fatty's hand. But what does any of this have to do with me? Harm others, and you'll end up harming yourself. I wasn't the least bit afraid and let them search openly and honestly. The village chief left empty-handed, but before he went, he gave me another look, a gaze filled with an indescribable coldness and malice. If he hadn't been so busy lately, I'm sure he would have already taken revenge on me 100 times over. 3 days later, the village chief's wife returned. Accompanied by several police officers, the village chief was arrested on charges of abusing his wife and daughter, as well as attempted trafficking of women and children. The entire village was in an uproar. The village chief's eyes were bloodshot as he revealed an even bigger scandal. Bitch, you went to your big brother with that bastard child, didn't you? Well, of course, since you could have a bastard with him, how could he possibly ignore you? The uproar in the village grew even louder. It turned out that Li Yuding was not the village chief's daughter, but rather the child of the village chief's wife and her own older brother. The reason the village chief had been raising and doting on her all along was simply for the monthly 300 yuan benefit from his brother-in-law and for his own son's future prospects. Little Fatty picked up that 1 yuan, and he was already on the verge of being useless. With no hope in sight, the village chief hurriedly contacted the master, who demanded 100,000 yuan as soon as he opened his mouth. The village chief went to borrow money from his brother-in-law, but his wife's older brother naturally refused. Previously, he had already spent 10,000 yuan for his own biological daughter, which was painful enough. Now, being asked to spend 100,000 yuan for his nephew, even if he had the money, he wouldn't be willing, let alone the fact that he didn't, because the brother-in-law refused to lend money. The village chief harbored resentment and began abusing his wife and Li Yuding at home, especially Li Yuding, who was not only the illegitimate child born from the village chief's wife and her elder brother's affair, but also a disgrace to the village chief, and a thief who stole Little Fatty's health and good fortune. In order to change his son's fate, the village chief planned to sell them for money to raise funds. The village chief's wife, having her deepest, most shameful secret exposed by her husband, decided to throw caution to the wind and revealed the matter of the curse. She looked at the villagers who mocked her as if she had gone mad, laughing at me. Do you know why your sons are falling sick every few days now and often having bad luck? Because they also ate the instant noodles bought with that 1 yuan that day. Ha 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 ha. Because of the village chief's influence. And also because Little Fatty never lacked pocket money. All the little boys in the village liked to play with him. In short, almost every little boy in the village had eaten that pack of instant noodles. At this point, everyone was too preoccupied to watch the commotion, thinking about the recent condition of their own. Guangzhong Yaozu, they glared fiercely at the village chief. Before the police could react, the village chief was already being beaten up by the angry villagers. By the time the police managed to separate the villagers, the village chief was already game over. As for the villagers, a dozen or so elderly men and women in their 70s and 80s stepped forward, trembling. We were the ones who beat him to death. He harmed our grandchildren, and we wanted him to pay with his life. Several public security officers returned empty-handed. No, they took the village chief's phone. The town government sent several propaganda teams to the village. They mainly promoted 3 points. First, they promoted the crime of trafficking women and children, emphasizing that both buying and selling are equally punishable. No one shall abduct and traffic women and children in any form, including taking them in, out of goodwill. Second, they promoted the idea that close relatives should not marry. To make this concept deeply ingrained, they specifically used Li Yuding as an example. Children born from marriages between close relatives not only tend to have weak constitutions but may also suffer from physical deformities and various diseases. Third, no illegal or criminal activities are allowed, especially acts of violence. For example, the entire village beating up the former village chief is unacceptable. Everyone nodded in understanding. The government is right. We all listened to the government. The propagandist stayed in the village for 7 days and finally left satisfied. Before leaving, a young woman patted my head and said, "Little sister, difficulties are only temporary. We must not fear them but face them head on. Don't give up on your studies. Arm yourself with knowledge. if you ever face difficulties in the future, you can write to me. I nodded vigorously. I understand, sister. I will study hard. I know better than anyone that knowledge can change one's destiny. To leave these mountains behind, I must study with all my might. After the village chief passed away, Little Fatty's grandmother moved in with his uncle's family. Little Fatty's grandmother treated him quite well, but the elderly woman didn't have much money and couldn't take him to the hospital for treatment. She did her best to steam a bowl of egg custard for him every day. On a rainy night, Little Fatty was killed by a falling beam. As for the village chief's wife and Li Yuding, the village chief's wife's sister-in-law scratched both their faces. In the end, the village chief's wife's sister-in-law drove the village chief's wife and Li Yuding out of the house. From then on, the village chief's wife and Li Yuding disappeared from everyone's sight. Some said they went to work in the south, while others claimed to have seen the village chief's wife taking Li Yuding away with a man driving a car. The village chief's wife's older brother was dismissed because of this scandal. Going from being a primary school principal back to a farmer, the village chief's wife's sister-in-law quickly divorced her older brother and took the children away, leaving him all alone. Because of this scandal, the parents of the village chief's wife never held their heads up again, finding relief only in their deaths half a year later. Not long after, the young woman in charge of publicity in the town brought me some good news. The police contacted the master through the village chief's phone and eventually arrested him. That master had harmed many people with this scheme, amassing profits amounting to hundreds of thousands. The master's final destination could only be prison. I wonder if, while singing the "Tears Behind Bars," he would remember how many families were torn apart because of him. Not only that, when my parents died, the police also found some useful clues in their room. Now, both the human traffickers and the middlemen have been arrested and brought to justice. I'm not sure if it was because of that handful of loose change and the 2 sweet potatoes. The village chief's wife didn't mention that the 1 yuan was specifically prepared for me. In September, school started, and I entered the 6th grade. To attend school, like everyone else in the village, I woke up early every day, carrying my backpack and walking 2 hours along the mountain road to get to school. I didn't go home at noon. Lunch was just a boiled sweet potato or corn on the cob, along with a wild vegetable pancake. By the time I got home from school in the evening, the sun had already set. Under the dim light, a small figure sat at the dining table, writing furiously. I had experienced such days for 5 years, and to me, there was nothing particularly different about them. The only difference was that now I was the only one at home, serving as both the head of the household and its sole member. In the 2nd year, I was admitted to County No. 1 middle school with outstanding grades. At County No. 1 middle school, I made my first true friend in life. She was a girl with an apple-shaped face, a girl who loved to laugh and have fun. We fought side by side, facing the battles of junior high together, and conquered the high school entrance exam. 3 years, and then another 3 years. Under the astonished gazes of the villagers, I was admitted to a 985 university in the north. On the mountain path, a resilient figure strides forward toward the rising sun. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. When I was reborn, the dormitory leader was sending messages in the group chat. Jiang Baoman, tally up the team building expenses. It's 4,500 in total. Once you receive it, transfer it over right away. The list shows meals 600, accommodation 1,200, attraction tickets 400, team leader equipment and allowance 11300. This time, I didn't say anything extra, nor did I ask her why she wanted the class monitor to be the team leader. Why spend 11300 on Arc'teryx equipment for the class monitor? Instead, they created a class group chat, then they posted a video. In the video, the dorm leader was getting dressed up. While applying foundation, she said, "Everyone who sees me should pay me for my lotion, serum, and foundation. These are all name brands. When spraying perfume," she said, "1 bottle of my perfume can be sprayed 100 times, which works out to 8 yuan per spray. You all should pay me 2 yuan every day. Don't even think about taking advantage of me." After changing her outfit, she said, "I've raised the average attractiveness level of our dorm. You all should pay me a compensation fee for the boost in looks." A moment later, the group chat exploded. The dorm leader was going crazy, frantically calling me. I didn't answer a single one. since you love us so much, I'll let you have your fill of a gossip always spreads quickly, in less than 10 minutes. Dorm leader Li Zihui was given the nickname A Fi Sister. Class monitor Chen Jianfei also happily received the nickname BB Soft Rice Man. Li Zihui kept asking me to retract my messages in the group chat, even threatening to kick me out of the dorm if I didn't, lol. Thinking the dorm is some kind of lucky spot. Not long after, dorm leader Li Zihui kicked the dorm door open. Her face was pale, her eyes red as if she had applied blush, but her tone was unusually forceful, ordering me to delete her post immediately, or else she would call the police and sue me for damaging her reputation. I smiled calmly. I haven't even come looking for you, and yet you're the one who's come to me first. Last week, I had my appendix removed and didn't attend your weekend team building at all. Why should I split the 4,500? Li Zihui remained as self-righteous as ever. We can't let your personal issues affect the unity of our dorm. You didn't go, but our expenses didn't decrease. If you don't pay this money, who will? Hearing that infuriating tone, my anger flared up instantly. In my previous life, I argued with her on principle, only for her to turn around and jump off a building. Not only did I have to pay 4,500, but I also had to cover her treatment and medical expenses, and in the end, I almost got a disciplinary record. Yet even after all that, Li Zihui still held a grudge against me for being disobedient and making her lose face, so they deliberately spread rumors that I took leave to have an abortion, and within a couple of days, the gossip was everywhere. Everyone looked at me with disdain and contempt. Every day, I received a lot of trash messages with explicit language, and many people made inappropriate advances. To avoid being followed by strangers, I panicked and accidentally fell down the stairs, meeting a tragic death. Thinking of this, I suppressed the resentment in my heart. Right in front of her, I prepared to delete the post, pretending to accidentally forward it into the school group chat and the class group chat. Then I acted flustered and clicked delete, making sure it couldn't be undone. Now the school group chat was in an uproar, with busybodies constantly tagging the homeroom teacher, the dorm advisor, and even the academic advisor. Even a law professor couldn't hold back and spoke up in the group, saying that such charges were unreasonable and non-compliant. Li Zihui's emotions, which had just begun to ease, immediately shattered again. Are you doing this on purpose, Jiang Baoman? She kept typing on her phone. Sorry, everyone, it's my fault for not managing things properly, letting my roommate cause trouble for all of you. The truth of the matter is not as Xiao Jiang described. I have no private relationship with the class monitor whatsoever. Purchasing Arc'teryx gear is an absolute necessity for our hiking activities. Jiang Baoman, please apologize to everyone, voluntarily pay a fine of 1,000, and copy the dormitory rules 100 times. The class group chat erupted once again, even more intensely than before. In just a few seconds, Li Zihui earned herself 2 more nicknames. One is Li the Miser, mocking her for not forgetting to impose fines even at a time like this. The other is Li the Official, mocking her for treating a chicken feather as a warrant. Li Zihui's phone rang, and on the other end came the cold, arrogant voice of class monitor Chen Jianfei. Didn't you say you would handle it? Let's not contact each other for a while. Amid Li Zihui's humble pleas, Chen Jianfei resolutely hung up the phone. It's all your fault. Li Zihui was in tears, clearly heartbroken. I looked innocent. What does this have to do with me? Why are you so worked up? Is Chen Jianfei your boyfriend? Li Zihui's expression was complicated, and in the end, she bit her lip and denied it. Of course not. Don't think nonsense. There's nothing between him and me. Looking at her pale face, I knew her heart must be bleeding. It is said that Li Zihui loves Chen Jianfei as if her life depended on it, but anyone with eyes can see that Chen Jianfei only treats her as an ATM. Just then, my roommates Su Beibei and Lu Mengdai returned, bringing some fruit milk tea to comfort Li Zihui. Seeing this, they all urged me to apologize. Seeing that she had backup, Li Zihui seemed to have found her backbone. She resolutely walked toward the windowsill, gripping it with both hands, wearing an expression on the verge of tears. I was doing this for the good of the dorm too. You can give me your feedback in private. Why do you have to embarrass me in public? The 2 roommates quickly chimed in as well. How much trouble have you caused for the dorm leader, and you still won't apologize? That's right, it was clearly you who broke the rules first. I glanced at the 2 of them, feeling a hint of contempt in my heart. It was only after my death that I realized these two were nothing but accomplices to evil. Su Beibei preferred to stay out of matters that didn't concern her, while Lu Mengdai enjoyed playing the victim and complaining about poverty in private. However, they both complained to me that the dormitory supervisor was making their lives unbearable. I was encouraged to stand up for them and fight back, but when I was slandered, instead of helping to explain, the two of them packed my clothes and belongings and threw them downstairs to draw a clear line. Moreover, after my unexpected and tragic death, they deliberately provoked my mother, who had come to collect my body, with their words, causing her to die from a heart attack. These two accomplices, I will never let them off either. I suppressed my hatred and put on a tearful expression. I didn't do it on purpose. I've already apologized. What more do you want from me? Then should I just go die? As I spoke, I forcefully pushed Li Zihui aside, turned my head, and grabbed onto the window. Li Zihui stood there in a daze, as if she hadn't expected me to steal her lines, and even her scene. Our dormitory is on the second floor, not too high but not too low either. In my previous life, after a big argument with Li Zihui, just as I was about to call the police, she suddenly broke down and yelled at me, asking if I was trying to push her to her death. Then, in front of everyone, she jumped from the building, landing right in the bushes and only suffering some minor scrapes. This forced me to apologize to her, compensate her, and endure the humiliation of taking care of her for over half a month, and it still wasn't over. This time, I'll be the one to jump from this building. It was just mealtime, and downstairs was particularly lively. Clinging to the windowsill with reddened eyes, I shouted loudly, "Do I have to die for you to finally let me go? I didn't even go to the team building event, so why should I split the bill? I just don't have the money." "So what? Did I break the law? Why are you trying to guilt-trip me?" "Li Zihui, if you want to buy Arcteryx for Chen Jianfei, why don't you just pay for it yourself? Why do you have to use the excuse of making me split the team building expenses?" "Woo, I have no money. Can't I just not live anymore?" Li Zihui's expression grew increasingly unpleasant, her eyes practically murderous. After I shouted with clear articulation and a loud voice, I resolutely jumped into the bushes. Everyone gasped in shock and hurried over to check on me. My eyes were hazy with tears, as if I had been wronged and helpless to the extreme. "I really have no money." Seeing my miserable state, everyone couldn't help but feel indignant. At that moment, Li Zihui ran down, his face ashen, and told me to stop pretending. "Jiang Bao man, that's enough. It's only the second floor. How could it kill you? I don't believe it. Get up now, before you make me lose my temper." As she spoke, she grabbed me, trying to pull me to my feet. I cooperated by letting out a shriek that sounded like a squeaky chicken toy. Everyone couldn't stand it any longer and quickly gathered around to shield me, all pointing fingers at Li Zihui. "Enough from you. Someone has already jumped off a building. What more do you want? Not only have you been illegally profiting, but you also drove someone to jump off a building. Do you think you're the boss of Foxconn? This is too heartless. Let's just call the police. Call 121st. Jiang is in critical condition. If he hits his head, it's all over." Hearing this, I almost burst out laughing. Afraid of giving myself away, I quickly closed my eyes and pretended to faint. In sync. After a bumpy ride, I had already fallen asleep by the time I was taken to the hospital. When I woke up again, I was already in the hospital ward. Counselor Li had arrived at some point. He was staring at me with a serious expression. Meanwhile, Li Zihui was leisurely eating an apple from my fruit basket. "Miss Jiang, how are you feeling now? You look quite well. So I assume you're not seriously hurt, right? Why not try walking a few steps? Girls shouldn't be so delicate." I frowned slightly in annoyance, feigning weakness. I nodded and said, "Then I'll give it a try." As soon as I stood up, leaning on the bed, I let out a low groan and, in the moment the nurse stepped through the door, fainted in a rather dramatic fashion. The nurse immediately lost her temper. "What were you doing letting someone stand up? Are you a doctor? Will you take responsibility if something goes wrong?" Counselor Li awkwardly licked his lips. "No, I just thought." The nurse's face darkened. "Are you a doctor? Then shut up and stop giving orders." After the nurse hooked me up to N4, the counselor, Ms. Li, looked furious, probably because she felt I had embarrassed her. Her tone also grew more forceful. "The test results aren't out yet, but I know you're fine, so stop pretending." Some boys jump from the second floor all the time and they're fine. What are you trying to pull? I'm not going to waste my breath on you. In short, sign this letter of understanding, then write a 5,000-word self-criticism and apologize to your dorm leader. Otherwise, don't blame me for deducting your points. You'd better think it over carefully. Li Zihue stood by, a smug smile curling at the corners of her lips. Counselor Li was Li Zihue's aunt, and it was precisely because of this connection that Li Zihue could act like a tyrant in the dormitory. Those who go along with her not only receive high scores but also enjoy smooth sailing everywhere. Those who don't go along with her, she will have Counselor Li make things difficult for them. That's why the other two roommates are so eager to please her, and I, too, have chosen to avoid trouble, cowardly enduring it many times. I cleared my throat softly, taking out the phone from under the blanket. I looked up and put on an innocent expression as I asked her, Director Lee, could you explain it a bit more clearly? I just jumped off a building and my head is still spinning. My memory isn't too good right now. Seeing the screen display a recording time of 3 minutes and 38 seconds, Director Lee's face turned pale, and she fell silent for nearly half a minute. When she spoke again, her tone was so gentle it could wring out water. Hey, Jiang, don't be so serious. I'm just concerned about you. I care equally about all my students, and I only want what's best for you. If there are any issues, we can communicate properly. As for you, Li Zihue, even as the dorm leader, you shouldn't be too overbearing. You should apologize properly to Jiang, Li Zihue, who was happily eating an apple. Nearly choked, with an incredulous look, she said, Auntie, you want me to apologize to her? Counselor Li grew anxious. I told you not to call me Auntie in front of others. Just apologize quickly. Under Counselor Li's pressure, Li Zihue not only apologized to me but also stayed behind to specifically attend to me. She was naturally reluctant. I said I wanted to drink some water, and she deliberately brought me boiling water with steam rising, grinning mischievously as she told me she had specially gone to Mishua Ice City to buy ice cubes, saying it was incredibly refreshing and that I must take a big gulp. I was deeply moved, picked up the cup in excitement, and accidentally spilled it on her arm. She immediately screamed in pain, her arm swelling up with a large red patch. She publicly accused me of trying to murder her. I looked innocent and said, You told me it was cold water yourself. How was I supposed to know? Did you deliberately lie to me, hoping I'd get scalded to death? Li Zihue looked frustrated but had no way to refute it. Seeing her like this, I felt a secret thrill deep down. Serves him right. This is just the beginning. I embellished the story even more and posted it on my social media feed. Many friends studying law and media left comments, teaching me how to demand compensation and an apology. Then, I posted these well-intentioned suggestions from my classmates on my social media feed. Seeing these comments, Li Zihue grew anxious and quickly flashed me an ingratiating smile. Oh, come on, why are you being so serious? What's our relationship? Don't let such a long-standing friendship end on such an ugly note. She didn't dare to slack off anymore and could only swallow her anger, continuing to stay at the hospital to take care of me. After mediation, Li Zihue voluntarily compensated me with 20,000 yuan. I used the money to buy a gold bracelet for my mom and spent the rest treating my classmates to milk tea. On the day I was discharged from the hospital, everyone came to visit me, and Chen Jianfei came too. He gave me a bouquet of flowers and publicly clarified the rumors about him and Li Zihue. Li Zihue's gaze toward me grew increasingly venomous. As for Chen Jianfei, his look at me was far more complex, a mix of exaggerated affection and the smugness of a peacock flaunting its feathers. It was only after my death that I learned Chen Jianfei had written me a love letter at the start of freshman year, which Li Zihue had discovered. So she specifically moved into the same dorm as me, just to keep a better eye on me and keep me under her control. No wonder I always felt she was particularly targeting me. After returning to the dorm, Li Zihue's temperament became increasingly strange, always wearing a gloomy expression. From time to time, she would lower her head and type on the keyboard, and every time I glanced at her phone, the screen was filled with a sea of green. A few days later, perhaps the heartfelt message had taken effect. The other side began to reply to her sporadically. That evening, just as I was about to take a shower and had already started undressing, Li Zihue suddenly initiated a video call. Chen Jianfei's face appeared prominently on the screen. I was instantly furious. Li Zihue, what are you doing? Li Zihue panicked, but what I didn't expect was that instead of covering the camera, she actually covered Chen Jianfei's face. I'm not going to let you see his muscles. Who wants to see them? Who on earth wants to watch? I was so angry I wanted to tear her apart, while Chen Jianfei was still waving at me over there. Originally, hearing that voice gave me goosebumps, but seeing Li Zihui's protective, pig-like demeanor, I simply pretended to be shy. Oh my, why did you have to video call me while I was taking a shower? Chen Jianfei quickly apologized in a bubbly tone. Sorry, you seem to have lost weight. Have you not been eating on time? By the way, are you free later? Let's have a voice chat. Li Zihui immediately blushed, glared at me fiercely, and hurriedly ran out with her phone in hand. From that day on, Li Zihui never dared to make video calls or even send messages in front of me again. She doesn't dare to openly target me, but she dares to anonymously post on the confession wall, saying that someone in a certain dormitory deliberately flirts and tries to seduce someone else's boyfriend while the dorm leader is video chatting with her boyfriend. When I saw this message, I really laughed. Could it be any more obvious? I held this anonymous message and questioned Li Zihui about what it meant. She looked embarrassed but still spoke with conviction. Who knows, maybe a friend just couldn't stand it for me. Even others can't stand it anymore. Can't you tone it down a bit, Jiang Baoman? Why do you like meddling in other people's relationships so much? I chuckled, accepted Chen Jianfei's friend request right in front of Li Zihui, then sent a voice message. Sorry, I originally wanted to ask you a few questions, but your girlfriend won't let me talk to you. I'm sorry, let's delete each other. The next second, Li Zihui received a call from Chen Jianfei. What nonsense are you talking to Jiang Baoman? What does it have to do with you? What business is it of yours when I talk to her? You apologize to her. If she ignores me, you'll stay on the blacklist. TSK. What a scumbag. Li Zihui's eyes slowly reddened, her tone filled with resentment and a sob. Are you satisfied now? Satisfied? How could I be? This is just the beginning. You haven't paid the price yet. This is nowhere near enough. Given a second chance at life, I have no intention of letting things slide. I just want all of them to pay with their blood. I know that Li Zihui will soon lose her patience. She kept a low profile for a few days and secretly started contacting people, thinking about how she's finally going to find someone to harass me, just like in my past life. I feel a bit excited, so much so that I couldn't sleep for several nights. Chen Jianfei really thought I was interested in him and started sending me breakfast without fail. I knew this person was vain and shallow, so I asked my classmate's younger brother for help. When Chen Jianfei brought me breakfast, my classmate's younger brother stood beside me, dressed in designer clothes. I smiled and greeted him, my gaze subtly sizing up and comparing the two of them. Just as he was feeling completely uneasy, I suddenly smiled and helped my classmate's younger brother adjust his shirt, turning to Chen Jianfei as I did so. Actually, I think this shirt might suit you better. Chen Jianfei was flattered. Really? What brand is this? Upon seeing the Prada label clearly, Chen Jianfei's eyes quickly dimmed. This shirt was clearly expensive at first glance. For the rest of the day, he remained deep in thought, lost in contemplation. After that day, Li Zihui once again started holding her phone and making up with Chen Jianfei as if nothing had happened. She flaunted her superiority over me. The bond between us is not something you can compare to. We were childhood sweethearts, together since we were very young. All I knew was that Li Zihui and Chen Jianfei came from similar family backgrounds. However, Chen Jianfei was particularly vain, with ambitions as high as the sky. Not only did he refuse to admit being with Li Zihui, but he also used the excuse of focusing on studies to secretly exploit Li Zihui's value to the fullest. I forced out a flattering smile. Really? Well, I wish you 299. Li Zihui snorted and turned to leave. This time, not only did my two roommates start having bad luck, but Li Zihui also extended his reach into the psychology club. She established 108 rules. For example, speaking dialects was prohibited. One must smile when entering the club, and be polite when seeing the club president, among others. Failure to comply would result in fines. There were also requirements like ordering club uniforms, standardized water bottles, stationery notebooks, and so on. This left everyone complaining incessantly, but this money was just a drop in the bucket, and it was also very hard to come by. Li Zihui racked her brains and set her sights on her roommate Lu Mengdai, who had a softer personality. After purchasing a gold bracelet, she replaced it with a gold-plated iron one and left it on Lu Mengdia's bed. She then went to return it, claiming it was not the same item and insisted that Lu Mengdai had stolen her bracelet. During that time, only she and Li Zihui were in the dormitory. She couldn't prove her innocence and was so anxious that she cried every day. Lu Mengdai was on the verge of a breakdown. She begged me for help through her tears. Watching her cry so pitifully, I felt an immense sense of satisfaction deep down, but on the surface, I pretended to sympathize and comforted her. She cried and cried, then looked up with a stern expression, staring straight at me. I never stole her gold bracelet. You believe me, don't you, Jiang Bao man? Why does she treat us like this? Isn't it just because the counselor is her aunt? Please help me expose her. In my past life, she pleaded with me just like this, crying and begging me to lead the resistance. As a result, I resisted and faced retaliation, while she, even worse than my indifferent roommate Su Beibei, who kept her distance from the matter, not only failed to help me but also spread rumors and exaggerated the situation to curry favor with Li Zihui. That was the first time I experienced the feeling of being betrayed. I pondered for a moment. You could also report it to the police. If you truly didn't steal, the police will clear your name. No way. Lu Mengdai immediately objected. Seeing my puzzled expression, her face flushed red, and she spoke slowly. She knows my secret. That matter absolutely must not be revealed. Or else I didn't intend to press further, but she voluntarily revealed that she had been harmed by a bachelor in the village during her childhood. Sympathetically, I shed tears, wiping them away with a sense of self-blame. I'm also afraid of her. I come from a single-parent family. My father abandoned me when I was little. As you know, my mother raised me all by herself, and it hasn't been easy for her. What if? Lu Mengdai sighed. She seemed to feel a bit of sympathy for me at the very least. She knew she couldn't persuade me to be the one to step forward this time. She had no choice but to go find Su Beibei. Unfortunately, Su Beibei immediately sold her out to Li Zihui. Li Zihui threatened her darkly. I don't care how you pay back the money, whether you sell your body or your kidney. Otherwise, the whole school will find out what kind of person you really are beneath that good girl facade. Li Zihui didn't understand that even a rabbit will bite when cornered, let alone a person. Lu Mengdai secretly cried for several days, then used her meal card to buy a utility knife. Waiting until both Li Zihui and Su Beibei were present, she lunged forward and slashed each of them across the face with the knife. Blood gushed out, and screams erupted all around. Why did you have to push me? Die, all of you, just die. Why won't you help me and even betray me? You should die too. All of you should die. The three quickly began to brawl. In the end, all three were taken to the hospital. Su Beibei was seriously injured. Her ears and nose were cut off, and by the time she was brought to the hospital, the doctor said the nerves had been severed, making it completely irreparable. Su Beibei completely broke down, suffering a mental breakdown on the spot. It was her parents who rushed over and demanded to sue Lu Mengdai. Li Zihui was quite cunning, always hiding behind Su Beibei during the fight. So while she appeared to have many wounds, most were on her limbs and were mostly superficial injuries. However, when she woke up and saw the deep, bone-exposing gash on her face, she cried as if she were being slaughtered, continuously clamoring to make Lu Mengdai serve a full prison sentence. However, Lu Mengdai also submitted evidence proving that Li Zihui had attempted extortion first. Although she was to be imprisoned, there were extenuating circumstances, and since the injuries were considered minor, Lu Mengdai was detained. Seeing that all my enemies had received their respective retributions, I also took the opportunity to request a change of dormitory, but as expected, it was rejected by Counselor Li. After Li Zihui was discharged from the hospital, it was as if she had become a completely different person. The way she looked at me was as if she were looking at a dead person, and from time to time, a strange smile would appear at the corner of her mouth. She even mouthed the words, "You're dead." I suddenly had an ominous guess. Could it be that she also has memories from her past life? I don't know what she did, but Chen Jianfei stopped contacting me, and our relationship surfaced from being a secret affair. We started holding hands openly on campus. At the same time, various rumors began to spread again. There were rumors about Su Beibei, As described by the survivor Li Zihui, Su Beibei became the culprit who incited Lu Mengdai to carry out excessive retaliation. As for Lu Mengdai, she was psychologically twisted from being molested by men in the village in turn during her childhood. Only she remained spotless. I waited for a long time, but still didn't hear anything about me, just as I was curious. Li Zihui took the initiative to come to me. Let's make up. Jianfei said it was a misunderstanding between you and him, and I don't mind those things anymore. If you're free tonight, how about we have a good chat? I nodded repeatedly, showing that in my heart, we have always been good friends. Li Zihui smiled and said no more. On Friday evening, she was waiting for me in the dormitory with a 2-liter bottle of cola and a few bags of chips. It was obvious at a glance that the cola had been drugged, yet Li Zihui thought she had hidden it well. If I'm not mistaken, you've been reborn, haven't you? That's why you can always precisely contradict me every time. I pretended to look completely clueless. What rebirth? What are you talking about, roommate? Maybe you should uninstall that novel app, Li Zihui sneered, then suddenly leaned in and grabbed my mouth, trying to force cola down my throat. Don't think I don't know. Seeing your wretched face just makes me furious. I could kill you in my past life, and I can do it again in this one. As soon as the words fell, several burly men suddenly appeared on the windowsill, clearly the same thugs who had stalked me in my previous life. Chen Jianfei was among them, staring at me with a look of disgust. I never expected you to dare play me for a fool. Isn't it just because you look down on me for being poor, deliberately finding a man to humiliate me? Do you think that matter is just going to be forgotten? My heart skipped a beat. I never thought Li Zihui would become much smarter after being reborn, actually seeing through my intentions and even finding a way to make Chen Jianfei realize the truth. However, just as the cola was about to be poured in, the door slammed open and the lights went out. A cake with lit candles floated in. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. As the song ended, the lights came on. A dozen members of the psychology club walked in, holding cakes and gifts, all with smiling faces. Seeing the scene before them, someone let out the first scream. Li Zihui was so frightened that she collapsed to the ground. I'm free too, rubbing my chin and smiling as I said, hey, it's your birthday today, don't you remember? I just wanted to celebrate your birthday, that's all. I thought you wanted to make up with me, that you were sincere, but I never expected. My gaze swept over the dumbfounded thugs. I didn't continue any further. Even a fool could see what was going on. I called the police. Everyone related to this incident was taken to the police station. The dormitory supervisor's psychological resilience was a bit lacking. As soon as the police asked a few questions, she spilled everything like pouring out beans. It really has nothing to do with me. It was Li Xiaoyan who asked me to take extra care of her niece and help cover things up. I had no idea she intended to harm anyone. If I had known, I definitely wouldn't have let them in. I thought they were here to help move things. Li Xiaoyan was so frightened that her face turned pale, and she began to stammer as she spoke. That's what my niece said. Who knew they weren't here to move things? I'm a victim too. How was I supposed to know it would turn out like this? But, officer, nothing has actually happened yet, so it shouldn't be a problem, right? It was just friends joking around. This is a crime. Whether it's a joke or not is for the victim to decide. The police immediately reprimanded her. Li Xiaoyan didn't dare to say more and desperately signaled for Li Zihui to apologize to me. Li Zihui argued defiantly that it was just a joke and told me not to take it too seriously. However, before she could finish, the members of the psychology club couldn't stand it any longer and began speaking up one after another. What kind of joke is this? Do you have any conscience saying that? Bao Man begged us to celebrate your birthday, and this is how you repay her. How can you be so vicious and ungrateful? I also put on a hurt expression and provided video evidence to the police. I originally intended to capture the dorm leader's surprised expression, but I never expected. Only then did Li Zihui realize she should be afraid. How dare she try to compete with me? Unfortunately, there's no way she could ever outdo the police. This video even captured the moment when I wasn't in the dormitory. She was sitting among a group of men, her face flushed with excitement as she laughed and said, when the time comes, all of you go at her together, 2 at a time. I want to make sure she never dares to show her face in public again. This is the price for messing with me, for the rest of my life. I want her to be my dog forever, just like Lu Mengdai. After watching this video, everyone felt a chill run down their spine. They looked at Li Zihui with utter disgust. I never expected you to be this kind of person. Li Zihui was at a loss for words. His face flushed red. Li Zihui was ultimately sentenced to 5 years, while others, including Chen Jianfei, received sentences ranging from 3 to 5 years. On the day the verdict was announced, Li Zihui's parents and Chen Jianfei's parents got into a fight outside the courthouse, drawing a large crowd of onlookers. As the central figure in the incident, I was very well protected. The dormitory supervisor and instructor Li were also dismissed. My world finally returned to a normal state. Originally, the school intended to compensate me by offering a guaranteed graduate admission, but I declined, using guaranteed graduate admission as bait or a compensatory tool. Such a school is simply not worth my continued stay. After graduation, I went abroad for further studies through my advisor's recommendation. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye, 3 years have passed. I have become an honorary professor at a prestigious university, and when I returned to China for academic exchanges, they had all been released from prison. It is said that because of their imprisonment, none of the 3 of them received their graduation certificates. Chen Jianfei remained quite vain, but with a criminal record and no diploma, he could only take on jobs that had no entry barriers. Li Zihui fared even worse. She had a tendency to develop keloids, and the scar on her face kept growing, turning into a thick, swollen centipede. Once bold and self-satisfied, she fell into depression. Yet she developed a pathological desire to cling tightly to Chen Jianfei. After some maneuvering, she successfully scored a goal, but unfortunately, she wasn't well received, and she didn't care at all. The 2 of them didn't get along well, with small arguments every 3 days and big fights every 5 days. Due to the intense emotional fluctuations, the fetus failed to implant properly and miscarried, which made Li Zihui hate Chen Jianfei even more. The 2 of them were addicted to hurting each other. It wasn't until Lu Mengdai was released from prison that she learned the whole truth of the matter and everything Li Zihui had done. Forced by her family to return home to exchange her car for her brother's, she secretly drove out in a van overnight, hitting and repeatedly running over Li Zihui and Chen Jianfei, who were arguing on the street. This bloody act of revenge quickly became a trending topic. It was impossible to ignore, and so, Lu Mengdai was once again taken into custody. Yet this time, she expressed a desire to see me once more. Before going abroad, I watched Lu Mengdai through the glass window, her face weary and worn. Her eyes were red as she apologized to me. Bao man, I've avenged you. I've killed all those who harmed you in our past life. Please forgive me. Okay. I couldn't help but frown. Seeing my puzzled expression, Lu Mengdai smiled self-deprecatingly. You might not believe it, but I feel like I had a very long dream. In the dream, I did something terrible to you, and I'm sorry. To be honest, you are the only person in this world who has ever been kind to me. I used to envy you. Even though you came from a single-parent family, you had a mother who loved you and was willing to give everything for you. But my mother only ever saw me as a girl, a burden, a waste of money. I was so jealous, so I said those things to provoke your mother, but I never expected she would actually. My expression darkened bit by bit. Enough, stop talking. But Lu Mengdai continued to speak. You were always so kind, bringing me soy milk and steamed buns every day, often buying me drinks. I regret it so much. I interrupted her. Actually, you don't need to regret it. Lu Mengdai looked up in confusion. You've always been timid since childhood, never daring to have any direct conflicts with others, yet suddenly you've been unable to control your emotions time and again. Don't you find that strange? I bring you water, bring you soy milk, never ask you for money. Do you know why? Lu Mengdai's gaze gradually focused, and a look of terror immediately surfaced on her face. You, that's right. I happen to have a close friend who majored in chemistry. I found some drugs that can make you emotionally agitated and have been giving them to you consistently. You're lying. Is there a police officer? Someone, come quickly. She's framing me. Arrest her. She's the one who framed me. I watched her agitation coldly as she was taken away by the police, still wailing in despair. I did indeed administer the drug in the early stages, but so many years have passed. It has long since been metabolized. Now, nothing can be detected. I never expected the medicine to be so effective, or perhaps, I simply unleashed the demon deep within her heart. Later, Lu Mengdai repeatedly requested to see me. I paid no attention to her. I boarded the plane directly and landed in a beautiful foreign country the next day. 3 days later, my mother, having completed the necessary paperwork, arrived at my doorstep. Seeing the gentle smile on my mother's face, I felt an immense sense of peace in my heart. All the past events were no longer relevant to me. From now on, my future will be filled only with freedom and happiness. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time. 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 See you next time.